to download Apache Spark, we'll just open a browser, and I'll do that from the terminal, and then we can just put a search in for Apache Spark, and it should be the first listing that comes in at Google, on Google, and I'll just click that, click download, and we'll just go with the default selections in the drop down. So we've got the latest release, which is 3 as of June the 18th, and then we've also got the package which is pre-built for Apache Hadoop 2.7. Now here's the file that we would like to download, so I'll just click on that, and I'll just click the first one, and I'll save that to my downloads folder. (210 MB). I've got hay fever, by the way, so if I sound like I'm breathing heavy or I'm sniffling, it's because I've got a really bad case of hay fever. In the winter I get really bad colds, and in the summer I get bad hay fever. So if you catch me in the spring or if you catch me in the autumn, then I'm just fine, but if it's summer or winter I always sound a bit weird. Okay, so I'll just go over to my downloads folder, just quit Firefox. And there it is, Spark 3.0. So what I'll do, I will uncompress it, so it's a TGZ file. Okay, I think that's it. And just check that it's been uncompressed in the downloads, which it has. Now I'll just cd out of this folder, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a Spark folder in my local directory, use a local directory. So this is a way just to manage versions. So you might be coming from Spark 2.44, you might want to keep that on your machine, flip over to it if you wanted to, but then you also want to have the updated version 3 of Spark, and it's just really a nice way to manage where they're kept, where the binaries are kept. So I'll do a make directory local Spark, and I'll just go over to that folder, Yep, Spark's there. Just CD out again. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to move my uncompressed folder for Spark from my downloads into the Spark location. So I'll just copy that rather than typing it out. And I'm going to move it to my newly created Spark folder. Okay, so that's now moved. So just go over to my local, CD into Spark, look at the contents, and there's my folder now moved into that location. Now the next thing I want to do is just check my version of Python. And actually I'll just go back to my home. Don't need to, but I will. Python 3, which I want to do. I don't have Python 2 installed. It doesn't seem to come installed with Ubuntu 20. So it's 3.8.2, which I have. And I want to find out what my location for my binary, where my binary is kept for Python. So I will do a which Python 3. So it's user bin Python 3. There are several ways to do that. You could also do a type a Python 3, and you could also do a ls user bin Python to see what other versions you might have. Okay, so what we're seeing here is I do have 3.8, and here you can see the succession of folders. So you've got Python 3, you've got Python 3.8. So now what I need to do, I need to update my bashrc file. So because I've downloaded the binary for Spark, I've put it in a particular location, I now need to, within my environment path, which I'll specify in my bashrc file, where to locate that file. So what I'll do, I'll just do a sudo vim. Now you can use any editor of your choice. I'm using vim. Just change that to sudo. And I'll just edit this. So I'll go to the bottom of the file and make some changes. So I'll just put in here export Spark home. So I'll make a variable with where that is kept. Local Spark Spark 3.0.0 bin Hadoop 2.7, and then I'll just add a variable on the end of that where the bin file is, or the executable is kept. So that is, colon Spark home, and on the end of that variable I'm saying that it's located in the bin file, and I'll just put some quotations around that. Okay, I think that looks good. Now the next thing I want to do is for Python is just for PySpark I just wanted to say where is the Python binary kept. So I'll say PySpark Python equals user bin Python 3 export PySpark driver Python equals user bin Python 3. Okay, I think that looks okay, so I'll just double check that. And I just forgot a slash. Okay. Okay, so I think that looks good. So I'll just right quit, and then I will reload the bashrc file. Okay, done. No errors. Good. Now to double check that variable, I'll just put in a Spark home, and there it is. There we have our location. So the next thing we need to do is download PySpark, which is the driver, the Python driver to Spark, and I will just do that via pip. Again, pip is the package manager for downloading libraries for Python, and if you don't have pip, you can just simply do a sudo apt install Python 3 pip, and then if you don't want to be prompted for yes, then you just say yes, and you know I've already got that installed. So what we now do is install PySpark, which is sudo pip 3 install PySpark, and we'll just wait for that to download. Okay, so I'm back after my phone call. I'm a little bit unprofessional, but I'm getting there. So now that PySpark has installed, what we need to do, we can check with pip3 freeze. Don't need to do this, but just doing it to show you. And there we can see PySpark 3.0.0. Now take a note of that version, because in order to get PySpark and Apache Spark to work, so PySpark is the driver, they need to be compatible. So you need to use the correct version of driver with the correct version of Spark. If you don't, then you'll get errors. So in my last video, I noticed there were some comments where some users had errors, and that's because they were using the older version of Spark with perhaps the newer version of PySpark, and it just wasn't compatible. Okay, so now that's installed, the next thing that we can do, we can just change into the bin directory for Spark, and we'll go to local Spark. I'll just go in there, list the contents, and I'll do a copy and paste instead of typing that out. Okay, so this is where we want to be, and this is the contents of the folder, and the executable would be in the bin file. So the bin folder. So we can just cd into that, and then to run Spark, we'll go / and Spark shell. Oh, okay. So my Java home is not set, so I don't believe I've got Java installed. Okay, so I don't have Java installed, so this is a good opportunity for me to show you how to install Java. So what I'll do, I'll just cd out of this to my home directory, and I'm not sure whether Spark now works with the latest version of Java, which is version 11, or whether it's still working on 8. I can actually install different versions of Java and switch between them, but just to be safe, what I'm going to do is install Java 8. So I'll do a sudo apt install open JDK 8, and that's the run environment, JRE, and I'll let that install. Okay, just give that a little while. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do, we need to install the JDK. So I'll just do that as well. Okay, so now I can do Java version, or it is, okay, actually it is Java version. There you go. Okay, so I now have Java installed, so what I'll do, I'll now go back to my folder, so that way I can start the Spark shell. So it's cd user local Spark yeah, okay, so I'll just go into that folder and then I'll just copy and paste. It just makes it easier. And put the cd change directory in front of that. And then the folder that I want is the bin file. Sorry, the bin folder. And within that folder, I will have the Spark shell. So Spark -shell, and then that should start up without any errors. Just give that a sec, and you shall see it. Okay, there you go. So that's the Scala prompt, allowing you to do your thing within Spark. And we'll just do a Control D to come out of that, to quit it. Now the next thing that we want to check, because we've installed our PySpark driver, the next thing that we want to do is just test PySpark. So we will do a / and PySpark, and that should run without errors. Okay, cool. So as you can see, we're running Python 3.8, and we also have the Python prompt available to us. Okay, so we'll just Control D to quit out of that. Now the next thing we want to do, I'm just going to do a test. So I'm going to do a test within a script, because what you probably will be doing is writing Python scripts, you know, importing the PySpark driver or library driver, and you know, you'll be running code within a script rather than coming over to the shell. That's the real way in which you'll be doing it. So let me just do another test. So I'm just going to go back to home, and I'm going to make a directory. So make directory, and it's going to be within my desktop. And I'll create a Spark directory within my tutorials folder. I'll then just change into that directory. And I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call that test Spark connection. .py. Okay. So to start off coding in my file, I'll just press insert, and then I'll put the shebang at the top. And it's going to be Python 3. which is the only version of Python that I've got on my machine. And I'll import from PySpark SparkSession, and I'll just create an instance of the SparkSession. And actually, I'll just do an SQL. Give that a name. And it's going to be a get or create. And then to prove the connection, what I'll do, I'll just print out the type. And I'll just put a new line. And N. And then below it, what I want to do, I just want to print out what attributes belong to the session. So I'll just do a print dir sc, and I think that looks okay. So just escape, right, and quit, and then I will do a Python 3 and it's in this location. And I will just run that script to validate the connection. Cool, so here you can see Spark has started up. This is the session that I've printed out. So PySpark SQL session, SparkSession, and then I've also printed out the attributes which are within that session. So that's validation that we can get PySpark installed, loaded, and validated with a Python script.